Hey, everybody, this is Nate Charles, founder and managing partner of Charles International Law. Today is October the 7th, 2024. I'm actually on the road right now, but there's something has developed in the international news that I think warrants attention. There's a gentleman by the name of Stephen Hubbard. Stephen's a U.S. citizen. He was captured by Russian forces in Ukraine, and today he was sentenced to nearly 7 years in prison for his participation in the conflict as a quote-unquote mercenary. Okay.
Признать Хауарда Стефана Джеймса виновным в совершении преступления, предусмотренного частью 3 статьи 359 Уголовного кодекса Российской Федерации, редакция Федерального закона от 27 декабря 2009 года.
Mr. Hubbard's case highlights a really important issue if you are working in the defense industry as a personal security agent, or if you're working as a private military contractor. If you are a member of a foreign legion, you are protected under the laws of armed conflict. That means you're supposed to be granted the same rights as any other combatant on the battlefield, regardless of the country that they come from. It only applies if you're a member of a foreign legion, that is a military unit of one of the combatant nations that's comprised primarily of foreign citizens. That does not apply to mercenaries. So what's the distinction between a mercenary and a member of a foreign legion? Unfortunately, the distinctions are kind of small. They're subtle. A mercenary is someone who's fighting principally for money, for profit, rather than as a matter of conscience. A member of a foreign legion can be a foreigner, a foreign citizen, but they're joining the unit and joining the fight primarily out of a matter of conscience. They're fighting because they believe in the cause of one of the combatant nations, and they are supporting that as a matter of principle rather than as a matter of profit. So what kind of evidence would go into proving that you're a mercenary as opposed to a member of a foreign legion? Well, a foreign legion is going to be a specialized unit comprised of foreigners, and one of the reasons that nations form foreign legions is because they want to have a unit into which they can deposit foreign fighters while also affording those people the protections of combatants on the battlefield. One of the reasons that a combatant nation might establish a foreign legion is because they do want to create a unit where the members of that unit will be protected under the laws of armed conflict, but they don't necessarily want to sprinkle foreigners into their home nation units. Another factor that could go into the analysis is the amount you're being paid. If you're being paid a large amount of money, maybe more than the average foot soldier would likely be paid, then there's a good argument to be made that you're a mercenary, not necessarily a member of a foreign legion. But the most important part of this conversation for anybody who's thinking about going overseas to fight in any sort of a conflict is that you need to be aware that a nation, especially a nation like Russia that doesn't really have a lot of respect for the rule of law, is going to ignore the distinction between a foreign fighter who is a member of a foreign legion and a mercenary. They're going to blur those lines because they want to make it as painful as possible for you if you get caught. They're going to treat you as a mercenary. You are not going to get the protections under the laws of armed conflict, and very likely you're going to be jailed as a rogue. You're going to be held as a criminal. You are not going to be afforded the rights that you would be due as a lawful combatant on the battlefield that you're entitled to under the laws of armed conflict. So the bottom line is you need to think very long and hard about what sort of conflicts you want to get involved in around the world. Now, I'm not saying that if it's a conflict that you feel strongly about, you shouldn't go forward and fight. You have to do what your conscience tells you to do, but you also need to be aware of the potential ramifications if you get rolled up on the battlefield. If you're considering going forward as a private military contractor, If you're considering going forward to fight in one of these units, I highly encourage you to consult with Charles Legal Services so that we can flag issues that might affect your participation.